Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Mary and Sam Show. Today we have an exciting topic to talk about. It's parenting and how can you influence your children. And one of the things, Mary, that I was watching while you were gone was a segment about Simon Sinek is his name, and he talked about leadership, but he prefaced it this way. He said, tell me when you fell in love with your husband or your wife. Can you say that? What did you specifically do to make them fall in love with you? Most people wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So what he says, it's the cumulative effect. It's the fact that you said good morning to her when you woke up. It's the fact that you went and bought her a cup of coffee when you got yourself a cup of coffee. It's the fact that you remembered her birthday. You know, it's the fact that over time, every little thing that you did made that person fall in love with you. So parenting, I thought, is no different. Any one of those little things by itself is insignificant. Another good way to think about this is if you were to brush your teeth, right? If you went to the doctor or the dentist twice a year, I'm pretty sure your teeth are going to fall out pretty quick. However, we do it for 2 minutes a day, once in the morning and once at night. And so by itself, that may seem insignificant. However, those little pieces over time make a big difference. So why don't you tell us how parenting could help?
Well, based on some research, parenting influences a child's life by 50%.
Wow.
Because I think sometimes people think that as parents we have all the control. We don't. We have 50% control how we can influence a child's future life.
Mm-hmm.
The other 50% is obviously part of it is their genetics, and the other part is their society, how they get influenced by the society.
Sure.
And I think it's very important for parents to know this. I mean, we do have a lot of power to do make a difference because the earliest child's memories, experiences are from home.
Isn't that something? You know, I was thinking about this as you were saying this.
Yeah?
Kids look up to you, right?
Yeah.
I see Arya, she's like this.
Yeah.
She's always looking up at me.
Right.
At a certain age, you have that window until she's up to my eye level. That's when they look up to you. So you have that time frame to really install good values in them and teach them things, because once they get to your level, then they think they know it all, don't they? At least that's what it was for me. All of a sudden, when I was as tall as my grandma, I knew everything.
Right.
So go ahead.
And you're talking about the snowball effect, that how much the consistency with how you treat your children will pay off in the future.
Right.
And it does. And my perspective is, you know, from a human perspective, is that most other people expect to be perfect and they hide some of the mistakes they've made in their life. So then they think like, oh, if we share everything with my child, depending on what age they are.
Sure.
Specifically, I'm talking about probably teenagers at this point.
Oh, yeah.
That they are going to, that their kids are going to make the same mistakes because mom and dad made the same mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So they hold a lot of information. Now, if you look at from just the real picture of life, what happens, I think every human being, we make a lot of mistakes. No one's perfect on this planet. I've made a lot of mistakes and I continue to make mistakes. And obviously the key is to keep adjusting and hoping that you don't make the same mistake again. Right. So the snowball effect to treat your child with respect, with that they're not young, and you know, often we think like, oh, they're a lot younger than us and they don't know anything, so we should respect them according to their age.
Right.
Right. So kids do expect for us to treat them just like a normal human being, and that consistency of how we treat them with the positive thought process and from a loving and caring perspective, it will pay off one day.
Yeah. And I think that this is something that my one of my good mentors, Gino Blafari, used to say, that time will either promote you or expose you.
Yes.
And so when we're talking about parenting, the results don't show up tomorrow. Again, it's that cumulative effect over time. And so, you know, if you're being a great parent, hopefully, that you're teaching your child small bits of information, values over time that's going to show up in their adult life. So really, that's what we're talking about. It's not about, I'm getting mad at you right this one time,
Right.
and that's going to show up tomorrow. It's that I got mad at you consistently, reprimanded you. Over time, that child is not going to come and talk to me anymore because guess what? I've conditioned him that dad gets mad.
Right,
And
exactly.
they're going to be afraid to talk to me.
Right. And this is what, there's a great book out there. It's called Conscious Parenting by Dr. Shefali. And she explains it so well that we need to be conscious how we treat our children and be aware of their feelings and who they are, because they're just their own individuals, and allowing them to be themselves, to guide them and help them. It's going to really help them to be, as adults, to be healthy, and most important, to be happy. I think, sometimes we as parents put so much pressure on our kids for them to succeed, to get a good grade, and to be good. But ultimately, that's all great. But we need to be mindful that kids go through stressful times. Even like a 2-year-old goes through stressful times. I see Arya now that she gets frustrated and she starts to like really on her papa suffer. Yeah, she does this because she's stressing.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know how to handle that stress. Most kids go through stressful time, and the most important part is to help them cope with the stress, because that's how they're going to cope with life in the future as adults.
I know, right? And one of the things, like when you were saying this, Arya watches this thing called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood on PBS. And I think it's so awesome because they sing little songs. If you're feeling stressed, let's talk about it. And
she was singing that last night. She said, I'm frustrated. And then she goes, well, if you're frustrated, take a step back and ask for help.
Yeah, I know. It's great. I thought, why wasn't this around when I was growing up? Right, and the funny thing is, just quickly, is Arya the other day we were at the park. She says, "Dad, we need to sit down." I said, "Okay, why?" She says, "I want to talk about my feelings." It's the funniest thing. This little 2.5-year-old telling me she wants to talk about her feelings. However, we've allowed her to express herself. We hope that she thinks that she's valuable, and that her opinion matters.
Yes.
So even at a young age, 2.5, they can tell you, "I'm not feeling good. I'm mad," or "I'm stressed. Let's talk about it." And I thought, how great that society now, the cartoons are teaching the kids good stuff. So if you guys have young kids, watch Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. I know you talked about a book about Dr. Shefali, but that's my tip.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. A lot of adults could use it too.
Yeah, of course, definitely. And my personal message is to help kids to know how to help your children to have a less stressful life, because especially in America, this concept of really pushing for for them to become successful, it's so on top of their list that parents forget to let kids just be kids. I see it especially in some areas of, like, for example, in Silicon Valley, there's some parents that are so competitive and pushing their kids so hard. And I think they're forgetting that kids first need to be kids, be happy, and then success is going to come later.
I know. It's almost like the kid's just born. Okay, well, we want him to be so-and-so.
Yeah.
And he has to follow, or she has to follow that footprint to create this perfect little worker bee to go and work. And if they don't, now then you start suddenly blaming yourself as a parent. Where did we go wrong? Why did this one not come out like all the others?
Yeah.
And what sucks about that is those kids don't get to be themselves.
No.
You know?
Right. And as adults, that's why a lot of people struggle with being happy, because they really never learn how to cope with stress in life, because we have stress in our relationships, we have stress at home, we have stress at work, we have stress with just everything is part of life. And, we don't have any strategies. And one of the biggest important strategies as parents that we could learn is to pause and listen to our children to see what they're communicating, because they do tell you that if they're crying, there's a reason for that. If they're, misbehaving, there's a reason for that. If they're doing something that you don't approve of for some reason, there's a reason behind it. So we have to pause and communicate, talk to them to see what's going on in their world, because there's a reason. You know, I used to have a lot of coaching calls early in the morning where I coach some people in the East Coast. So I would wake up like really 5 in the morning and I would have early calls.
Right.
So Arya, our daughter, started to really, when she would wake up, I wasn't with her in the bed because she sleeps with us. And then she started to build this habit of crying. First thing she would wake up, she would cry.
She would be cranky.
Because she wants mommy to be in the same room, or she wants that certainty. So I started to notice that. Why is she crying when she wakes up? Why is she, cranky? And I said, oh, it's because of this.
Right.
So I started to really, do my schedules later in the day, except I just have on Mondays. And then I've seen a tremendous amount of improvements.
Yeah.
Now she wakes up,
She's
I'm
happy.
next to her, she's smiling.
Right.
So it's important. And I mean, if I wasn't a conscious parent, I would have said, oh, well, she just cries, just let her deal with it.
Yeah, there's always these signs. And so it's important to recognize those signs. And I think, you as a parent, you have an opportunity to work with somebody like Mary or a coach that could help you. Because ultimately, that's what coaching and development is getting better than where you are so you could succeed at a higher level. And as we keep talking about different subjects, I always want to bring it back that it's not just one thing. It's not just you. It's your relationship with your wife. It's your relationship with your kid. It's your relationship with your mom, your significant other, your relationship with God, with your health and fitness. So all of these things make a difference. And so please, if you ever need any help like that, just reach out to someone like Mary, or better yet, call Mary, and do something about it. Because there's always these things that we can improve. And of course, everybody that's watching this isn't going to be that kind of person where they seek help. There's only certain kind of people that do,
and that's
okay. All right.
But my heart goes out to children, kids that are helpless. They're so vulnerable. They don't know how to communicate. But they have emotions. They're pretty intuitive. And my heart goes out to those kids that they don't get the proper help and they grow up as adults and they're struggling. All of that is a direct correlation of how they were raised or they were brought up. Again, parents could make a huge difference, but it's 50%. The other 50% is how we translate information based on our genetics and the society, how it influences you. Gotcha. So it does, for some of the parents, I had a coaching client last week and she came to the call and she was pretty sad. And she said, one of her daughter's classmates committed suicide as a teenager and he was gay. And then they had a parent meeting that everybody's trying to blame the parents. Now, they could make a difference, but they don't have all the control because that kid goes to the school and there's a high percentage of chances that other kids in the school influences that person.
Yeah.
You have no control over that.
Right.
So,
I think then, however, if you don't have control over that, if you have a good relationship with your child, you can help them cope with the stresses that comes from life.
Very well said.
So therefore, they can come to you, consult with you, and you can hold them and hug them and say, it's okay. Life is not easy.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where things aren't going to go your way. However, I, as your parent, I'm here to support you. It's like I got your back. Right.
Well, speaking of that, I know this is not about my kids, but sometimes it's nice to share some things. So my son Aris and I, we took a couple of weeks off. We went to Europe and we spent a lot of quality time talking, which was great. And we were in Paris and he said, well, I got to try steak and French fries because Dad told me this is something you got to do in Europe.
You're in France. I mean, I heard that's what they do.
But he's not really a steak person. So he was hesitant. And I said, Aris, why don't you just order chicken? You like chicken. You don't have to order steak. He goes, no, Dad told me to order steak. So I'm going to order steak. And I said, okay. He goes, Mom, whatever Dad tells me, I'm going to do. If Dad tells me to jump off of a bridge, I'm going to do. I was like, whoa. I was proud. I was like, I just wanted you to know that it took that hard work to build that relationship with your son. And I'm very proud of that because you created that. You didn't have that before.
No.
Now you do.
Right.
And that's very phenomenal for a kid to say that because I'm sorry, I can't even say that about my own parents. If they're going to say, I'm going to say, you go first, I'll go after you. I don't have that much trust. I'm sorry, but I love my parents, but I'm not going to jump off of a bridge. but it tells me how much trust he has in you.
Right.
That means that you have his interest, you know, his best interest in your heart all the time, and he knows that.
Right.
So I think that's phenomenal to be able to do that, and you know,
it's good.
to have to be so close and have that great connection that one day he gets stuck and he comes back to you and asks for advice. I think that's all we want.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think that should wrap it up for this show, Mary. What do you think?
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
It's nice to be back, and we took a couple of weeks off.
That's awesome.
All right, we'll continue keep talking about family and children because we're passionate about that. And if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, please comment below. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.